What's on, where and when.
It's the Talk of Nelson.
Talk Nelson Radio.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to the Mako Rugby Roundup, episode 8. And welcome once again, my co-hosts Les Edwards and Sean Davis.
Cheers, Chris.
Hello, gentlemen.
Another week.
Wonderful to be here, my friend.
A bit nippier this morning, isn't it? A bit of frost on the ground.
Certainly
Rugby
is. It was hard to get here. Let me say that, or to get out of bed.
You were late this morning, Liz. I wasn't going to say anything.
But we're getting into true winter mode, and that's the time when we play our best rugby, I'm sure. It's great to welcome also Chris Little, who's the club capability manager for the Stoke Rugby Club. Welcome, Chris. Nice to have you here.
Kia ora, team.
In this week's show, we're going to be covering First 15 Rugby, Senior Club Rugby. Also, it's the Super Rugby quarterfinal time. So this is when the tipping gets serious. We're down to the crunch end, so we'll go through the lineups for this week. And also we're going to catch up with Chris on his rugby background and also the mighty Stoke Rugby Club, who were chatting earlier in the show, took the rugby scene by storm in the 80s, actually. And, yeah, some success after that as well, and travelling pretty well at the moment. So we're going to be talking more about the Stoke Rugby Club. But our first item on the agenda is our venue sponsors, O'Shedigan's on Bridge Street, and it's time for the Shed Chat. And not going to be talking about dancing too much anymore now. That's,
no, mate, it's all done and dusted. It's part of history.
So tell us about what's been happening during the week with O'Shedigan's and what's planned for the weekend.
Yeah, mate. No, it's a lot of sport going on at the moment. NBA finals,
yes.
Super Rugby, of course. So the quarterfinals, semi-finals, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we'll be in full swing with them. And we've actually got a bit of a weekend this weekend, Les, with a trophy match for our dear friend Francis Monopoly.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, so that we'll probably talk about that a bit later as well, but we'll no doubt be watching plenty of footy and having a beer or two in his honour and memory. So, yeah, that'll be us for the weekend, and then, yeah, into the evening with the rugby and the dancing of another kind. So, yeah. Still plenty going on.
Oh, that's good. It's all happening at O'Shedigan's on Bridge Street. Pop on down. First 15 Rugby Round 4, Les, and tell us about what's happening on that front.
Yeah, so Waimea Combined are travelling to play Roncalli Aoraki Combined. Waimea Combined still looking for that first win, but, you know, they will enjoy being able to play a team like Roncalli, so we wish them the very best.
Absolutely.
On Wednesday, Nelson College defeated Timaru Boys High School by 58 points to 10.
58 to 10.
Yes, so they are very much on a roll. 5-0 now.
Yeah, good.
Just
good
remarkable how good that college team is.
Interestingly, Les, we actually had a few of the Timaru supporters in there on Tuesday night, and they enjoyed a very late evening with me, a little bit later than they probably planned. But yeah, a couple of the dads were up, and stayed out probably later than they were meant to. But if they're listening, I said I'd give them a mention. So
awesome!
Good stuff. Yeah, so a comprehensive win, and then Saturday they play Selwyn Combined. So a game on Wednesday, game on Saturday. That's on the front field at 11 a.m. I expect them to win that and go 6-0.
Wow, how about that? And also Waimea playing on Saturday at 11 a.m. So good chance to get along and see them on their home patch.
Yeah, that's the way.
Oh, sorry, is that away?
Yeah,
my mistake.
You
All
can
right.
edit that out.
Yeah, I'll edit that out. All right, Senior Club Rugby and Senior Women, round 9.
Yeah, so the final round of regular season competition. So Maris will go over the Whangamā to play Wairo Wahine, and that's at Renwick Domain, and Renwick's Club Days, so curtain raiser for the Div 2 game over there.
Great.
Waimea Old Boys are hosting Kahurangi, but they're taking the game to Takaka Recreation Park, so a chance for the Golden Bay folk to get along and watch what will be a good game of rugby.
Oh, nice. And who knows, maybe in the future a Golden Bay team.
Well,
that'd be nice.
That would be fabulous. Takaka, you know, Collingwood combined would, they'd have good players out there. That's the farm lasses.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's good. Good luck to the teams with that. The standings at the moment are Marist well and truly on top, aren't they? Kahurangi on 29, Wairo, and then Waimea Old Boys. The Stuff Tasman Trophy, round 4. And what does the lineup look this week, Les?
Yeah, so Nelson are playing Kahurangi. It's Nelson's club day. So this game will be on Trafalgar Park. So the kids will play at Neil Park. Div 2 and Div 1 will be played on Trafalgar Park. Marist are playing Waimea Old Boys at Tahunanui. And that, as Sean alludes to, is a big day for the Marist Club, with the main game being a competition for the Francis Monopoly Trophy. Stoke, Chris's club, will host Waitoi at Green Meadows, and Central will play Muteri at Lansdowne Park.
Okay, so they had a rest last weekend, King's birthday weekend, so they'll be all ready and firing, ready to go. So, Les, Nelson versus Kahurangi at Trafalgar Park. What are your thoughts? That's Kahurangi travelling pretty well at the moment. Nelson were building, apparently, but perhaps haven't quite got the wins that they wanted.
Yeah, so Kahurangi are perennial semi-finalists, so they're a very good outfit, coached by Brendan Smith. Nelson will be up for it under coach Gary Stevens, but I will suspect that Kahurangi will get away with the lollies.
Okay. And Chris, we're going to come over to you because these guys are banned. They've got green eyes. That's all they see. It's Marist all the way. So Marist versus Waimea Old Boys, Jubilee Park. So what are your thoughts on these two teams?
I think Marist are probably the front runners here. I think if Waimea can get up in their faces a little bit and slow down a bit of momentum, they might last a little bit longer. But I'll be saying Marist are 13 plus.
Right, 13 plus. 13 plus.
Yeah, it's a good
He always tips 13 plus, so it must be just a thing, is it?
Well,
there's no exact scores anymore.
2 choices, mate. 12 and under and 13.
That's a lie. I've heard you tip draws before.
Yeah, and I've tipped 12 and unders as well.
Now, unfortunately, Chris, you're banned from the next one. We're going to throw over to Sean. Stoke versus Waitoi at Green Meadows.
Yeah, mate. I think, I think the Stoke boys are clearly travelling pretty well as well at the moment. So Waitoi are struggling. I don't see them coming over here and that changing, unfortunately, for them. But I think the Stoke boys will be far too strong, yeah.
Okay, Les, and the Mighty Central versus Muteri at Lansdowne Park. So
Muteri are struggling also, but they're very proud of their effort at continually putting on a team onto the park, not defaulting, which is their goal this year, to encourage these young players to stay with the club and learn. But I'll have to tip Central 13 plus in that one.
Okay, and things still pretty tight at the top of the table, aren't they? Central and Stoke, Kahurangi all pretty even. Marist not too far behind. But Nelson, Waimea Old Boys, Waitoi and Muteri with some work to do. So they'll all be keen on getting some runs on the board, that's for sure.
Chris, I just thought I'd point out about the Mako trial, which we talked about.
Oh, yes.
So that was over at Lansdowne Park on Saturday of the long weekend. A terrific performance by both sides. Some really good opportunities taken by a bunch of players. I won't name anyone because,
jinx them.
Yeah, well, it's up to the coaches to actually identify who they like, but a bunch of them have been named in a wider training group. But yeah, it was a fabulous day. Very good rugby, but Gray Cornelius, the Mako coach, did point out that what it showed those guys is the different fitness level that's required when you step up to better company. And so a lot of the guys who are on those fringes will just have to do some work with their
bit of puffing towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a different standard when there's quality players across the park.
Yeah, it's interesting, when players talk about stepping up to test rugby as opposed to super rugby, because sometimes, clubs can be stronger than international sides because they know each other so well. But what they do talk about is the pace and just how it burns the lungs when you get up to that level. So we may not notice it on the tally, but certainly the players notice it when they get onto the field, that's for sure. Okay, well, that's great. And we look forward to seeing the announcements and see who's been able to make the squads. Super Rugby quarterfinals, it's getting definitely to crunch time. And let's look at the lineup. So we've got the Blues versus the Waratahs, 3 versus 6, Friday, 7:35. The Chiefs, who won the minor premiership, to taking on the Reds, who snuck in at 8th. That's Saturday, 4:35. The Crusaders ended up being second after all of that, versus Fiji, who also just made the 8th, so in 7th place, Saturday, 7:05. And we've got, the crunch match, I think, probably of the round. Brumbies end up being 4th versus the Hurricanes. That's Saturday, 9:35. So we'll start with you, Chris. The Blues, who are in 3rd, they're taking on the Waratahs, who actually had a loss, so they'll be hurting a bit. The Blues get a home game Friday, 7:35, and I know that the Blues coach, Leon, wasn't that happy with the performance so far. They're looking for bigger and better things, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the Blues are a team that when they're on, and are pretty indestructible when they are on. But it's about getting them all on the same page, I think. I think on Friday they'll be too much for the Waratahs, however.
Bowden Barrett back?
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I don't think that wound is properly healed, he'll make a difference at number 10, won't he? Okay, Les, the Chiefs versus the Reds, and the Reds made the 8, so yeah.
By the skin of their teeth.
Yeah.
I think anyone who makes 8th spot is there just to make up the numbers, to be honest. I have Chiefs winning this, in a bit of a romp.
Now, who did the Reds beat at away in New Zealand? That wasn't the Chiefs, was it? Was it the Chiefs they beat?
That's the one loss that the Chiefs had.
So they have had their measure, haven't they?
Mark words about dropping the 8th, just making up the numbers.
Them off, and yet the Reds beat the Chiefs.
I want you to put your house on this one, Chris.
Okay, so definitely picking the Chiefs. Crusaders at home against Fijian Drua Saturday night. Sean?
Yeah, we'll be up for this one. Look, I think everyone could sort of lean towards the Crusaders. Drua did pretty well to make it with a big win in the weekend. And I think that them making the 8 was probably their victory in themselves. So I think they've probably played their final match and their finals performance. And I think they'll get a hiding.
Right.
Yeah.
I get the feeling they might throw the kitchen sink.
I think they'll have a good crack at it.
Yeah.
And like I said, once they've made it, they've sort of made it. So nothing to lose now. And away you go. It should be entertaining at the very least.
Won't be warm in Christchurch, that's for sure.
No.
So they might have their leggings on for the game. That's for
Crusaders to win over 50 points.
Over 50 points.
Well, in the match. So Fiji will get a few.
Oh, I see what you mean.
High scoring game.
High scoring game.
Okay, so not 13 plus.
Yeah.
Well, it will be, but at least that's a bit more exact.
I'll leave that to open.
At least that's a bit more exact. Highlanders.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
They're
not even on the list. I can't even talk about them. I knew, we kind of picked they wouldn't get up against the Blues. But, they were hanging in there. But once Fiji got that win, the Reds really done a number on us there, so they've probably done it on purpose.
Yeah, and of course the Force were in with a chance too, but things went against them.
Oh yeah, well actually that was quite convincing in the end, unfortunately for them, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Well,
next year, mate.
Next year you got 50%. You got Fiji and Drua in there, so okay, good stuff. And the last one, which is my pick, is the match of the round, is the Brumbies at home versus the Hurricanes, Saturday 9:35. Chris, so what are your thoughts?
Oh, it's going to be a tough one. I think Liz pointed out earlier that the Hurricanes are actually favourites at the TAB, but I think the Brumbies are going to get up. Just being at home will be the big advantage. Hurricanes, a bit shabby last week. I see the Brumbies.
Yeah, because the Hurricanes are sort of hung in there, didn't they? They came through with an unexpected win, so there was a bit of grit there. And I think some people are talking about their performance coming through, but they're away, aren't they? It's very hard in Canberra, isn't it, to beat the Brumbies?
Very cold.
And very cold as well, yeah.
Liz's multi-buster.
Yeah, you picked it out. Yeah. You've gone against the grain, haven't you, on that one?
I'm not backing the TAB favourite. Put it that way.
All right, so picking the Brumbies. Okay,
Brumbies.
Good stuff. All right, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting next week.
Yeah, it'd be quality rugby. What great viewing for us all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plenty of entertainment.
You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, thanks to Shettigans on Bridge Street. Our very special guest is Chris Little, who's the club capability manager at the Stoke Rugby Football Club. And They call him Chris Licks Little. There you go. He's a Stoke stalwart, and he's having played 200 senior games for the club. Currently still a player coach, and of the Division 2 team, and also manages the club as well. Welcome, mate. Nice to have you here. Hey, mate, a bit of kind of a late start compared with most rugby players, I guess, who get into juniors straight away. But your pathway into rugby was a bit different in the fact that you didn't really start till the under 14s. So how did that come about? How did you get drawn into the under 14s?
So I was at Nayland College. Just a bunch of my mates were playing. I'd kind of grown up around rugby a little bit, like they all played. So I used to go and watch them on Saturdays, and just never really had the courage, I think, to get out there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd just grown a little bit, and thought that I'd give it a crack, and absolutely loved it.
Right.
Absolutely loved it.
Okay. So what were you doing during those school years? I mean, was it just observing? Did you play any other types of sport before rugby, or?
I played a little bit of cricket. I was dreadful.
Right.
And that was very time consuming. And I played a bit of touch as well, which was good to sort of get the skill set right to play rugby. Other than that, I was really into a bit of gaming, and spending time inside is probably a good thing that I got out eventually.
Yeah. And going to watch your mates, I suppose, in the end, it drew you into wanting to have a go, I guess.
That's right. I guess I grew up, out on the field with them, playing during the week and hanging out with them, but never really got involved in a club sport. So
how long have you been playing the game now? Because you've racked up a huge number of games.
Yeah, since I was 14, so I guess I played 15 years of senior rugby now, plus the 5 years at school, 4 years at school.
Yeah. So 100 plus games.
So 140 Div 1 games, and a few Bs games in between. I jumped in between, and I love the social side of Bs footy.
When we look at the team namings, you're often on both team lists.
Yeah, I've played a few back-to-back games in my time.
Is that right?
Do you get to 200 quicker?
Yeah.
Okay, so were you drawn into Stoke Rugby, or was it Nayland Rugby to begin with?
So it was Nayland Rugby to begin with. A lot of my mates had played at Stoke as juniors. And I got sucked into at Nayland College and sort of played all the way through to first 15 there. I left school, and a couple of my mates were playing at Stoke. But it was really actually my manager at the time that got me to come to Stoke, Bondi, who many would know, set up the fields at Green Meadows every week. Bondi sort of dragged me down to Stoke training and made sure I was there, and it went from there.
So with Nayland Rugby, were they playing local comp, or it was mainly schoolboy rugby?
So it was just a local under-18 comp. It was all run at schools then. There was 10 odd teams. Second 15 from Nelson College played in it, and there was a third 15 that played as well. It was a pretty good competition.
Yeah, and but then after that, everyone was in there at Stoke, so that drew you into the Stoke club. So as you got into that, tell us about because obviously you're still a Stoke man. You've played a lot of games for them. So tell us what kept you there and the passion for the club.
Yeah, so I guess it really just comes down to culture. I sort of got caught up in the club, I guess, and loved every minute of it. We used to just hang out all the time. Everyone used to live together and spend a lot of time together. So it was probably more that than the actual rugby club itself. It was sort of being a part of a big group of players or mates, really, and sucked in from there.
And that mates you've still got to this day, aren't they?
Several of them are still my mates.
You're going on tours and having a good time.
Yeah, it was really that. So just all about having a good time was sort of what kept us all together.
Right, it says here on Les's notes you've served some time on the Nelson Bays Council of Delegates. Currently is the chair. What is it? What is the Council of Delegates, and what's their role?
So the Council of Delegates is a group of clubs, I guess, club delegates. So there's one delegate from every club. We get together and we sort of discuss where the community game's going. I guess essentially it's the governance of community rugby. It's a little bit messy now that Tasman Rugby Union's a thing. It used to be that the Nelson Bays Council of Delegates governed all rugby in Nelson Bays, but now they're sort of like another level above. But we discuss the competition formats and rule changes, any issues that sort of arise, which is always a few issues. it's a cool experience to be a part of, I guess, mixing with the clubs and chatting rugby.
Been involved. The season, the council introduced an under-14s comp. What was the thinking behind that? And
yeah, so this is a bit controversial.
Well, that's what we love on this
we
show,
love it. I can see we're leading you.
Yeah.
So under 14s to under 18s has traditionally been run through high schools, through the college system. And what we were finding is that there's a fairly large drop-off in player numbers when they go to high school. Part of that's mixing with new players, but some high schools do a better job at running their rugby setups. And a lot of players are drawn to there, and that sort of leads to a lot of players falling off at the same time. So by introducing an under-14s competition that's run completely by clubs, we're sort of hoping to capture more people and encourage more people to stay playing the game. There's been a bit of kickback around it from some colleges, but majority of colleges were happy to sort of hand it over. And I think as a council of delegates, we sort of made the decision that clubs are the best people to run rugby at that sort of teenage bracket.
So there's a big drop-off, right, of involvement in rugby at the age of 14, or 13, 14, right, teenage years. So if they don't see a pathway to become first or second 15, the interest in staying with rugby can drop off. Whereas if you stay playing with your mates at a club level and having a good time, then there's a better chance for us to be able to keep them in the game longer.
We looked at a couple of years and the stats were pretty bad. It was sort of over 80% drop off from 14 to 18. It's a lot of kids sort of just going missing along the way there.
So why is that? So obviously they go to college, and when the college teams themselves, that they are playing sometimes within that club comp. But why do you think that drop off happens at school as opposed to, if I understand the concept of the fact that if you stay with your club, that you can see that pathway, but why at college does that change?
Yeah, I think it's to do with a little bit the way the colleges structure their teams.
Right, gotcha.
So they mix it up, and all of a sudden, little Johnny's not playing with his mate, so he pulls pin. He doesn't enjoy it, doesn't get the same experience out of it.
So sometimes it's a different structure to what you're used to through a club involvement.
Different coaches, different managers, different structure. Yeah,
right, okay, yeah.
So under 14 is pretty innovative for the council in its first year. Do you see any other changes you'd like to introduce?
Ideally, this is my own opinion, I guess, is just where I'd love to see it go all the way through up to under 16s and then under 18s, hopefully lead into a Colts competition. The big issue is around how the first 15 players are handled in that situation, where they'd play first 15, but if they don't get picked, they'd be available to play club. Pretty flexible around that. But I think that would be a great way to head.
So it's interesting. Be interesting also to talk to Wayne Young. We spoke to him last week. He's on New Zealand Rugby Board. You may know Wayne, but his passion was for, I guess, underage rugby, or certainly he's involved in under 19s, that kind of stuff. So I can see one of the debates that's going to come up soon is around college, secondary school rugby, and that combination with club rugby. And it's been the same in other sports as well, because sometimes it gets to a point where the colleges have a top side and they don't want their players going off and playing other for clubs or at other times during the week. So they hang on to their players, and that's the pathway, which does affect clubs. So what's your viewpoint locally on how that all can mix in together?
Yeah, I don't see it as a huge issue. The first 15 already, they have their 18 players. I think it is 18 or 20 that they pick that can't move around anyway. So we're sort of only talking about six or seven players maybe that are in their squads that aren't going to get a whole lot of rugby, that can go back to their clubs, play with their mates, get a sort of different experience, I guess. And stay involved.
Yeah,
that's the key. The key is to keep these kids involved and not having them drop off because one, they don't see a pathway for themselves to first 15, or they've been separated from their mates by different structures in the competition.
Yeah, exactly. What about at club level, mate? Do you think the region can sustain six senior teams?
This is a great question.
Thanks, mate.
I don't think the club competition can sustain 6 teams. Well, if we look at it as a Tasman Trophy wide competition, I think really the max amount of teams that we should have in the competition is 8, and this comes from the talent coming down from the Mako can only be spread so thin before it becomes too hard to manage the competition, where we have some teams that are really good because they have more high performance players. I think if we try and spread it over 11 teams like we did in the past, we just watered down the competition, and we don't see that same level of competition.
So obviously there's a bunch of clubs out there who want to exist in the Tasman Trophy, and if they all came back, there would be 10 clubs, right? But what you're saying is, in your mind, that the talent across the 2 provinces, it probably sustains 8 teams. Doesn't matter if it's 6 and 2 or 3 and 5. Your argument's really around the 8 teams to make sure all of that talent is getting proper game time.
Correct. I think a little bit of it has to be driven from the Mako level. If they want the Makos to be a successful side with like a genuine competition underneath, we need to have less teams so we get a better level of competition.
Well, I'd imagine the comments column.
Leave your thoughts.
Leave your thoughts, everyone.
So are you saying that there's a couple of clubs out there that want to join the Tasman Trophy? Is that
they'd like to come back?
They'd like to come back into the Tasman Trophy.
Renwick aren't there at the moment.
Yes.
They'd love to come back, and that would make 4 Marlborough clubs. And then, of course, in Nelson, Wanderers would love to come back, and that makes 6 clubs. So,
So to what level do Renwick play at the moment? They go up to what?
Division 2.
Division 2. So there's no chance of a relegation promotion type concept, or would that still be spreading the players too thin?
I think what you would find is that the players would just jump ship. Yeah. For example, someone gets relegated, all the good players just move to another club.
Yeah. So when Moutere came back in this year, the Renwick lost a lot of players who went back to Moutere, those players having left Moutere to go to Renwick last year. So it reinforces this point that there's not enough players to keep 4 teams going in Marlborough and possibly 6 teams in Nelson.
Difficult.
Yeah. And every club has so much passion for their own survival that I really feel for every club who would love to be there. So at some point, maybe we've just got to hope that numbers come in and it does end up being 10, perhaps.
Fix it at the under-14s level.
Yes, absolutely. And then under-15s and under-16s and Colts. So that's how rugby used to be.
Yeah, build it from the bottom.
Yeah. Good point, Sean. Okay, mate. Now there's a group of us. I'm a club capability manager at Marist, and you're the same at Stoke, and we've got colleagues across the Tasman Trophy clubs. So we're having a look at a non-contact form of footy to be played by past players or Division 2 players, certainly not Division 1 players. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so Tassie Tag, we're calling it. It's I guess essentially like Ripper Rugby, but for adults. And we're really going for a format of rugby that's non-contact, but it still feels like rugby. We still want to see some form of scrum, some form of line out, and a bit of kicking, and we want it to feel like rugby. So when the old boys are out there, they can still get that sort of feeling of we're out playing footy. Hopefully we're looking for a bit of a social bunch, and we can enjoy a brew afterwards. So not really competitive structure at the moment. We're just looking to get the guys out on the field and have a bit of a run round.
Yeah, so we're looking at the month of October, Chris.
I'd be up for that.
You sold it well.
Because one tackle, that would be me. I'd be out. I'd be finished.
But it's no tackle.
Yeah, exactly.
You get your flag ripped, and then you can pull a hamstring if you want to.
Yeah, that's right.
But squads of 12, 7 aside. As Chris rightly says, looks and smells like rugby. There's 3-man scrums, 3-man lineouts. And the kicking, a bit of innovation there, right, Chris?
Yeah, that's the one. I think you're allowed to do a kick as long as it's under the referee's shoulders. So sort of like punching through grubbers, sort of
putting kicks behind play.
Tactics, yeah.
That'll bring out the James Lashes of this world.
So I've played a bit of touch, but I haven't played much tag. So I don't really know the rules. I know that, once your tag's pulled, you have to plant the ball. But is it 6 tags or?
Yeah, that's
right.
Yep.
Okay, and then a turnover. So on the last tag, you can kick the ball.
Yep.
Potentially. Oh, that's like that.
Get it downfield.
Yeah.
But not up and unders.
Because funny enough, in touch football, when we were mucking around, we'd have a friendly game. We'd all want to kick it on the last thing, and we'd all do up and unders, and then just charge but you weren't allowed to tackle, obviously. But we enjoyed doing that. Well, yeah, I'd put my hand up, but I need about 6 months' notice because
you've got it.
Yeah. We've got a few old fellas down at the touch football field. Even Tony Lewis was there, and by about week 2, everyone was out. There was hammies and calf muscles and knees and.
Oh, yeah. Actually, just one other thing. Each club is going to provide 2 teams, a male team and a female team, and a referee. So,
and you'd have to have quite big numbers and rotating subs. You'd probably have to have that, surely.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you'll have only about 3 left at the end.
I think rotation of players is very important.
Good
but
stuff.
It would be fun to get it up and running and see how it works. But if you think about it, there's an opportunity eventually for that to be played at business league and teenage league, all sorts of leagues. It's just a matter of fields.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, Chris, you're also involved in Nelson under 52 kg team selections and coaching. So tell us about that. That's 12 to 13 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So the under 52 Set and Shield competition, been running for, I think, 88 years. They've played 86 times. They had a couple of years off. One was for COVID, and I believe they had some a year off when there was the fuel rationing back far before my time. So other than that, she's been pretty consistent. And it's actually a primary school tournament. So you have to be at primary intermediate school, year 8 and below. And you have to weigh under 52 kgs to be eligible. It's a great tournament for the kids. So it gives an opportunity for some of the smaller kids, the more skillful but small kids, that they tend to get dominated on Saturdays by the big boys. And it just gives them another opportunity to sort of have a crack at some cool footy.
So what's that called? Weight for age or age for weight? Anyway,
so, either one,
either or, right? So it is a great leveler and a chance for the smaller kids just to have a good time.
So we have a trial, and we trialed 34 kids. I'm going to say 80% of them were backs, and now we've got them playing prop, flanker, lock, hooker. Some kids that turned up thinking they were first 5 are now hookers, and it's great. So I think I had 8 halfbacks nominated. They were playing all over the show, and it's cool to be a part of. The kids get a lot out of it.
Yeah. So some famous names in our local areas who have kept under 52 alive, eh?
There is. So there's Golden Bay Motueka. So George Sturgeon has been doing it for, I think this might be his 30th year. And Chris Shand is involved with Nelson, and he's 23 or 24 years. So they've been doing it for a long time, and they've had a lot of guys that have helped them for periods of time over the years. A lot of kids have played in it. Some carry on. There's some pretty famous names on the history books. Ethan Blackadder, Dave Havili, Mako Springer played, and it goes all the way. Marty Banks, I think, played for Buller back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, mate. The under the Set and Shield comp's obviously a lot of fun for the kids. What's your opinions on the representative team selection and rejection at that age group?
That's a good question. I think the kids, a lot of it's determined by the parents, and this is a bit of a touchy subject. Representative footy's sort of been canned a lot over the country, and this is one of the surviving tournaments, probably because it's run by a certain group of people sort of separate from the union. The kids that do miss out, I think it builds like a bit of resilience. We try and, if you manage it properly, we get them together and we do some development with them, so they're not missing out on anything. They get the development on the trial day, and they get to play another game of footy. And we try and make it not about the pressure of playing in a trial or making the team. It's just about having another opportunity to play a game of rugby, learn some new skills, play with some different people. And if you miss out, more than happy to give feedback on what you can do and how you can improve your game. And the kids that do make it, they get to be a part of something special, another opportunity for them to play rugby, like I say, against kids their own size, and develop their skills from there.
Yeah, and get around our region.
That's right. Yeah, so it's
the comp's rotated around 5 different provinces, right?
It is. It's a week-long competition, so they play 4 games in 5 days, and it alternates between West Coast, Buller, Golden Bay, Motueka, Nelson, and Marlborough. So last year we were in Hokitika. It's a great week away. They're obviously 12 and 13-year-old boys away from their parents. Some of the parents come. They just have a ball and they run right in Hokie for a week.
It's an interesting subject, isn't it? Not that I want to get you in a whole lot of trouble, but I guess those slightly longer in the tooth remember pass and fail, getting selected or not. I remember my first attempt to make the reps, and I just went along with my mates. And I read in the newspaper, my name wasn't there, and I was gutted. But I got in the next year, and so what did that teach me? I didn't sulk and go away from the game. By Saturday, maybe I was over it, and I was back playing with my mates and enjoying it. And I recognised what were good players and what weren't good players. But that following year, I don't know whether I gritted my teeth and went for it, or whether it was just circumstance or timing. I made the squad, So does that teach you, no matter the bumps and hits you take in life, you just got to keep carrying on and get back up? Does it teach you that? Or by putting cotton wool around kids and, enjoying everything, but there's no winners or losers, it's a real difficult conversation to have. Probably a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, absolutely, and you'd have to talk to the various opinions around that, because it exists. There are people who are absolutely against representative footy because.
And you'd probably need some expert opinion around, the development of a child's brain and personality and how they learn too, to see whether it is really detrimental to them. But I guess the people at our age are going, you got to take the knocks and get back up, because that's what life is all about. That's what we think.
It's a lot of, like Chris said, it's a lot of management and how those, especially those fringe guys, are getting handled, I think, and the delivery of the message probably could be improved from the newspaper days, but something to work on.
It's right.
This is how give you something to work on, rather than name up on the board.
That's obviously where the saying came, because that's exactly what happened. Where's my name? My mother just going, "What's the matter?" So I was by myself. I don't know what age I was, but these days you'd be talked to, wouldn't you? And say, don't worry about it. Get back up and just go out and have some fun. And you never know. Try hard, and you'll get another crack at it. But it'd be interesting to see what the experts say today about that whole involvement of young players.
Yeah,
I think if you don't make the team, there's still a chance you can be an All Black. Yeah,
exactly.
I think
that's right.
It's it's just not about ruining dreams at that age, I suppose, and delivering a message on how to improve.
Yeah, that's right. But also, some kids probably don't care. They just do it for fun, and but other kids, if they get their grit in their mouth and they're determined, often those players, if you look back at history with the players that have done really, really well in the game, often there's been a lot of knocks and letdowns along the way, and it's that resilience and determination to get there that comes through in the end. Yeah. So anyway, interesting conversation.
Absolutely, and there's as we heard from Wayne, there's a body of people in New Zealand rugby looking at this exact thing, teenage rugby. So Callum Near in charge of that. Mate, let's get it back to the footy. And Stoke travelling really well in Division 1 and top of the pops in Division 2. Well done, captain coach or player coach, Chris Little. Tell us about the coaching of the Division 1 team.
So the Div 1... Sorry, team. The Div 1 team is coached by Joe Kirker and Antonio Chalfoun. So Tony's a current Mako, and he's just on the injury ward at the moment. And Joe Kirker is a school teacher, so he's got a bit of experience dealing with people. But they work really well together. They're both Joe's an ex-player, Tony is a part of the team, and they bring, I guess, a younger point of view than a lot of other coaches. They're very fluid, easygoing, relaxed in how they take the team. I think one of the keys is how they work in with the high performance squad as well. They're very lenient on, this person's played so many minutes this week, they're okay to have a rest, not sort of pushing them around too much. Yeah.
So basically at Stoke, is there a style of play that the Stoke club likes to play?
I think we would love to be able to let loose our backline at the moment. We've got a pretty strong looking backline, and if we can get some front foot ball and then really let loose out wide is sort of what we're looking to do.
When you won those comps in the 80s, though, and at other times, was back play what got you there, or was there always a very good forward?
He's going to say he wasn't around then.
So. I was not around then, but I believe, talking to the old boys, that they did play a lot of razzle and they really gave the ball some air and had a crack. I believe they're a ragtag bunch of roughies and just got stuck in and had some fun.
Yeah, and in Division 2, you're leading a bunch of very experienced
players. I think the average age is almost 30. And we are experienced. We've done pretty well over the last few years. I think we have featured in 3 out of 4 finals in the last 4 years. One last year. And we're on track again this year. Don't want to jinx it too much, but we're going okay. And this, realistically, it will be a lot of guys last year. They've been plugging away for 10 years, a majority of them, and it's nice to see them get some reward for their hard effort. There was a few years there at the start where we were a rubbish side, and they took a few hidings. So it's good to sort of be on the up end.
So all good things come to those who wait. And train together and play together, right?
Well, on that subject, you're a busy man as it is, but where do you think you'll be in a couple of seasons' time?
Myself? I'm not sure if I'll still be playing.
Tassie tag.
Tassie tag, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm not sure where I'll end up, really. I'll still be involved with the rugby club. It is my life. I love every minute of it. I might have 1 or 2 good seasons left in me, and then maybe I'll just be filling in. I'm not sure if coaching the seniors is really where I want to go. It's okay when I've got some of my mates around me, but I'm a bit fiery and I don't know how I'd go with a bunch of guys that aren't so keen. Yeah.
You'll still be around Stoke and you'll still be playing, mate. I just know people like
300 games.
Just 300 games. That'll be the target. Absolutely.
And big game this weekend, Stoke versus Waitoa at Green Meadows. So what are your observations about that?
Oh, yep. Waitoa will come over. They had a good game against Central last week I just looked at the scoreline, but I think they'll come over with a bit of fire. If we can sort of weather the storm, we should be okay. Get into our shape, get into our structures, get the ball out to the edges, and hopefully score some tries.
Yeah,
nice.
And Waitoa, well led by Tim O'Malley, of course, and there's some pretty decent people there. But yeah, that's the plan, isn't it? Just wear them down over time.
Should we ask where Licks comes from? Is that for public consumption?
I'm not entirely sure how I got the name, but it's short for liquor, as in booze.
I see. Okay, we won't promote that.
Drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly. That's right. Okay, good on you, mate. Well, Chris Little, thank you very much for coming, and we really appreciate your time. And it's great to get an insight into what's happening around our club scene. It's been really interesting, and every club's got a fantastic history and a passion. And it's great to see all the work that you're doing with the youth and the ground, the grassroots rugby, with that coming through. So we really appreciate your time, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the season. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, gents.
No worries.
Pleasure.
Okay, and Les, plans this weekend, so what's happening?
As Sean alluded to, it's just a massive weekend for the Marist Club. The Francis Monopoly trophies.
Yeah.
So, we're playing at Tahuna Nui Fields. We've got the kids on there. Then we've got Division 2 at 1:15, the main game at 3 p.m. Waimea Old Boys, who are our guests, have been very cooperative. So we just go at the end. We'll all get ourselves to New Street Steakhouse.
Nice.
We'll have a great aftermatch stories about Francie, presentation of the trophy by Margaret and Ricky and Carl. It's just a big family day for us, and very important. So I'll be a rugby man from about 9 a.m. because we're starting with a connection breakfast amongst all of the senior players in netball. So it's a long day, but it'll be very rewarding to celebrate Francie in style.
That's right. Yeah, and so big weekend for you. So you'll be obviously heavily involved in that as well.
Exactly. I'll be maybe not start as early as Les, but it'll be a big day of rugby, and plenty of stories to be told, and a lot of memories and remembering a good man.
I mean, you talk about a club man. I mean, he did it all, didn't he? Played, administration, funding. You know, he was all there running the club rooms all the time. So talk about a man that was heavily involved in community club rugby.
A life member who just cared about the players. Yeah, right. And every player felt easy going and approaching Francie with an issue, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Okay. So go well. It's going to be a big day, and Shettigans. There'll be a few coming in over the weekend.
Yeah, mate. We'll be back here after dinner at the steakhouse. Yeah, and we'll for the hearty ones, we'll kick on late into the evening, no doubt.
Good stuff. And sports on the telly as well. Well, that's it for another edition. We thank you very much for coming in. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you again next week.
Cheers, mate.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
What's on, where and when?
It's the Talk of Nelson.
Talk Nelson Radio.